Yes, welcome to another episode of Stories to Create podcast right here at EOS Club. I am so excited because I have with me today the A-list celebrity
No,
of
please. Please.
So-
Let me stop you right there. Because some people are going to have to Google me. That means I'm not an A. Let's try like ML list, okay? Not A.
You- I gotta tell you though, because you do such a great job on the news right now.
Thank you.
And I know my listeners is like, who are you talking about?
I know.
Cornell?
It's okay. A list, no. I'll do it myself. F list, maybe. Shari Armstrong, Fox 4.
Listen, guys. We're going to have some fun today.
Yeah.
We're going to create some story with Miss Shari Armstrong. And as you heard, did you tell them Fox 4?
I did tell them Fox 4.
All right. So if you guys want to see that beautiful face on Fox 4 News, I'm telling you guys, you're in for a treat because she got all the juice.
Yeah. I appreciate that.
Yes, you do. You got all the juice. So what we do on the show, we go back with our guests, and so we want to go back with you when you can think back on that early years, that little girl, that young girl Shari.
Mm-hmm.
What was that like? What was that journey? Where were you?
As far as my career?
Well, not your career. We
Ooh.
going back to
Ooh.
like maybe 6 years old, 7 years old.
Oh,
Yes.
my. 6-year-old Shari was probably the beginning of an identity crisis.
Really?
To be honest. So, I come from a very loving home.
Mm-hmm.
And so I grew up with my grandfather and my mother. And so I was constantly surrounded by education. I knew all about our history from a young age.
Wow.
My family is from Barbados. So I come from a very strong Caribbean
yeah.
background and foundation. From around that age, 6, 7, 8, that's when I transitioned from school in Port Charlotte around a little after that to here in Fort Myers.
Okay.
And I became the only Black child in the classroom. So when I say identity crisis, I mean it, because I went from other brown kids in my classroom to nobody who looked like me. And when I say that, not just other students that didn't look like me, but I didn't have any teachers that looked like me either. So for me, I always wanted to do something in some type of entertainment on TV. I thought I was going to be an actress. That was my big dream. I was involved in musical theater and all of those things. But then around that age and a little older, I started to question if I could do those things, because growing up here, you didn't see people like me doing those things.
Right. So, and the support wasn't there yet because you still had to figure out who's going to be your friends and stuff.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And so, I had the support of my family, and don't get me wrong, like I had great friends growing up, great mentors. I went to Quality Life Center down the street, but the internal side of figuring out who I actually was and what Blackness looked like and was defined for me was a struggle. Truly from around like that age and a little older to, I always tell people, I think I finally accepted that I was Black when I was a freshman in college. Like, I'm trying to tell y'all, it was a journey, okay? It took a long time. Questioned it for a long time, because I always tell my friends at work, like, there was a point I thought I was Dominican.
Yeah. Wow. Because of how light skinned you are.
Yeah, I was light skinned, and then I had a lot of friends who my closest girlfriends were from Puerto Rico, and so I was like, well, this is cool. This is a time, Cornell, where people thought like being Haitian was disgusting. This is a time when people felt like West Indian was like you grew up poor and your mom, like grew up in the fields and stuff like that, which for some people that is the truth, but like this is a time where people had no idea how powerful West Indian Caribbean culture is, how educated we are. We have some of the top schools. People don't know that. So they hear, one, they see Black, two, they hear Caribbean, and they're like, oh. So I wanted to fit in. You know what I mean? I had different hair. I looked different, and I wanted to just fit in, and that didn't. actually happened for me, I didn't accept that my fitting in would look different until I was much older.
Wow.
But I was living my best life, Cornell,
That's
okay?
good.
I got to
That's
tell
good.
you, my parents took me to all the places and we did all the things, you know, and my parents made sure that I went to Italy when I was in high school and we did all of these things together. But the internal shaping, the part where you really have to decide for yourself, like this is what I'm going to be, that didn't come until college.
Wow. So, because I hear you mention mom, granddad.
Yeah.
Where was dad? Dad?
That's it. Wow. I didn't know we were getting this deep. But no, so my parents divorced when I was in 4th grade.
Okay.
And I always really grew up with my grandfather and my mom. Okay. Anybody who knows me will tell you my grandfather is like the love of my life.
Beautiful.
I love him so much. My mom is my rock, but my grandfather is the love of my life. Yeah. I love him so much. Yeah. And he really stepped from before I was born. He really stepped up into that plate. My parents were separated. Okay. And then there was a time where my dad tried to come back into my life when I was in 4th grade, and it just didn't work out. So he left, and I continued, you know, to live my life. Yeah. And then as I got older, my dad started reaching out again, which this will be breaking news for my mom because I don't even think I ever told her that. Yeah. But and you know, that communication is probably a text message here or there. But you know, my father was, and maybe this is, wow, Cornell, we're going really deep.
Oh, we're going deep.
Lately, I've been doing some stories on addicts and recovery, and it's interesting that you mentioned that earlier. Right. My father was an alcoholic. Okay. So that was my mom's whole, like, I want this to be separate from my child, you know, and I didn't even know that until I was much older. Wow. And so that was part of his struggle with alcoholism, was the reason why I didn't see my dad that much. It wasn't like my mom was trying to keep him from me or anything like that. And he tried when he would have those moments of clarity to be there, but just for some people, it is a big struggle. That is a big struggle. So later on, he got involved in the church, I understand, and now he's reaching out and trying to live that life, and I appreciate that. But that is what happened there. Yeah, I don't know that I've ever told anyone that, like, publicly. So there you go.
Listen, and you got to know that you got listeners, young ladies that never really had a dad in their life. Yes. So really to hear from you today that has been doing so many major things in the community, just what that looked like, you know, so the journey with that, you know, knowing that you got that strong support from your granddad, you know, going into what that's going to look like for college. Yeah. What was that?
Yeah. My grandfather, I talked about that identity crisis. He was, along with my mom, but really he was the person that made sure that I had all the black books. Right. So even if I was going to a primarily white school, I knew where I came from, and I talked a little bit about that background.
That is beautiful.
And my grandfather, you know, to this day, if I pull up in the driveway out there, my grandfather is gonna come out and inspect my car.
That's amazing.
He's going to check the tires. I don't care if I just came from the dealership. You know, he's always gonna make sure I'm taken care of. So he taught me from a young age that I was a princess. Yes. And molded eventually into a queen. Yeah. And that's not to take away from my mom, because my mom was like, girl,
she did that.
She was the definition of independent. That's right.
Amazing.
But obviously the male figure really does make a difference. So even though my father was not there, my grandfather was there to help me to understand what what it should be like in a situation where you are involved with a partner. And he, to this day, has been that person for me, and modeled that for me, so that as I entered into dating, I had a standard already, you know, of what that should look like. That's and good. So that's not good. Everybody could date this, you know what I mean? Because you know, my grandfather, you know, I was going on cruises from a young age, and it's not all about money either, because let me tell you, I always tell people the one person that, you know, has never judged me for anything, and I messed up a couple times, Cornell, was my grandfather. You know, so that love of like, I see you and I still accept you, and that support system, that is really where my love comes from. It's not it's not about all the bells and whistles, even though those were nice. Really the core of what love looks like. I, from a male perspective, I learned that from him.
That is amazing. Now, because you have this Caribbean culture, did you get to feel a lot of that here in America, like from what that culture looked like?
Yes, because my mom, we have a pretty good number of family members that are here.
Okay.
So I really never experienced life outside of Caribbean culture until I started having, going to people's houses in middle school for sleepovers and stuff like that. Yeah. There are certain things, I don't want to step on anybody's culture. I'm trying to think of the best way to say this, but there are certain things in Caribbean culture that I didn't know other people do.
Right.
Do you understand what I'm saying right now? Okay. So I don't want to step on anybody's culture. I just feel like we can read between the lines here. But even things like, my friends would call the house and they'd be like, the phone would ring and I guess they would be like, can I talk to Shari? Yeah. And Miss Armstrong would hang up because you don't do that. You say good evening.
Yes, you have to.
Of course.
You have to.
Good evening, good night.
Yes,
you never, so little things like that, they still play out into today, that I realize it more and more, like, taking off your shoes in the house. And I know that's not like solely Caribbean culture, but I'm like, wow, this is not what everybody does, and I love, I grew up here in the United States, but I love my Caribbean background and foundation. There, to me, I'm kind of egotistical about it because I think it's the bomb. Right down the street, Indira Demine, do you know her? She's a local attorney. She just bought that building down there, and every time I see it, I'm like, that Guyanese girl bought that place. She's not just the manager; she owns that building. And to me, that's representation. I just love nobody could cook like us. Okay, let me stop. I'm done because I'm going to. I'm going to make somebody mad.
This is beautiful. So now we get into college. What was college life like? Like for you going into college, what was your expectation?
I was scared.
Yeah.
I was scared. So my proudest moment in my life is that I was waitlisted at Yale University. I didn't actually get in, but I was waitlisted. So nobody could take that away from me.
That's beautiful.
Thank you. Yes. But I ended up, and I was accepted at Howard and a couple other places, but I ended up at the University of South Florida, right down the street in Tampa, which was healthy for me because it was far enough that my mother could not pop up on me. Yeah. But at the same time, if I needed to come home or if I needed her to be there, it was a 2.5-hour drive.
That's a drive, yeah.
College was really the place where I discovered and accepted my blackness because it was the first time that I was in an educational setting where it was diverse, right? I didn't go to an HBCU. I didn't go to PWI. I went to a school where there was a little bit of everybody.
Beautiful.
So because of that, I started delving into one of my favorite classes was about culture, just the diversity in cultures, you know? Yeah. And I'd never experienced, Cornell, like a black instructor. Wow. I never had a black doctor until I went to Tampa. Wow. So you could imagine, I'm in the waiting room expecting to see a white person. Yeah, because I grew up here and this is what you see, what you used to see, because it's much different now. Right. But I could not believe, like, all of these, the educational elements, some of the community people that I was meeting, the doctors, people started to look like me. Professors started to look like me. So that just encouraged me to tap into different aspects of life. I joined the surf club.
Did you?
Yeah, I had no business doing that, okay? Right. But I just wanted to try new things. And there were people on the surf club who looked like me. And I was like, wow. That it was such exposure for me. And at the same time, it was my first black experience class was Intro to the Black Experience. Wow. I'll never forget that, Cornell. Wow. Sitting in an auditorium of about 200 students talking about the diversity and blackness helped me to understand that maybe I didn't solely identify with this type of blackness, but there was a place for me that still allowed for my blackness. Does that make sense?
Yes, most
and that
definitely.
was really like mind-blowing for me. College was like it was transformational for me, and it should be transformational for everyone, but for that particular area of my life, it was like, this is who I am and I like this.
Was it in college where you discovered, like, you know what, I want to do journalism? When was that? What was that turning point?
Yeah. So when I was in 4th grade here, we had a meteorologist come and speak to the class. Wow. I know, people are always amazed by this. We had a meteorologist come, and we would have different guest speakers. But there was something about the meteorologist that I loved.
Yeah.
He was not over the top. He just had such passion about what he was talking about.
Right.
And he was on TV. And I thought that was really cool. And I remember that moment, really sitting in that class of about 50 kids, combined classes, and thinking, I want to do something like that.
Yeah.
I do want to be on Broadway, but if I'm not on Broadway, I want to do something like that. Then I went to college. I signed up to major in mass communication, and that is why I do not put a lot of pressure on younger students to know what they want. What do you want to do? You're asking kids that when they're like 10 years old because you don't even know.
You don't know.
So I put mass comm, and by my second or third year, I was like reeling in all of these internships. You know, I was killing it, and we had a little studio at our, you know, the college, the University's public broadcasting. You know, I was anchoring that, and I hated it.
Really?
I hated it. I was like, every day I'm on TV talking about car crashes. I remember the first death I reported on. It was a pedestrian on a bike that was hit by a car right in the university area. And it was just like every day it was what people say the news is. It's just negative. And I was like, I don't want to do this, Cornell. So I literally graduated knowing like I was not going to do this. But, you know, like I was going to keep Miss Armstrong proud. You know what I mean? So I wasn't going to say anything. And I ended up in nonprofit, which led me to production in in Los Angeles with my cousin. And while I was out there, I saw this job on Craigslist for a reporter here in Southwest Florida that just was to tell positive news. It was all about, we would spotlight someone like you.
Right.
You know what I mean? Someone in the community making a difference. I was like, that's my job. So it was on Craigslist. I was like, I don't even know if this is real or not, but I'm going to apply for it, you know? I was young. You know what I mean? And at that time in my life, Cornell, I spent 2 months in DC, a year in New York. Like, I was just like wherever. Because I could.
You're feeling it out.
Yes, exactly. And just still discovering myself. You're always discovering yourself, right?
You do,
And so I put it on Craigslist, and I got the interview. And I remember getting in. We were shooting a mini something in LA with my cousin, and we worked for 24 hours straight on set. You know about production, so you know how that goes, you know? And so I wasn't even tired. I was just functioning on adrenaline. And I popped up the Zoom interview, and there were these two guys, and I was like, there is no way this thing is real. You know, they were just these two random guys just chilling, almost like in a spot that kind of looked like Google. I was like, oh, I should not tell them my last name. I shouldn't give them like any information. But there I was, like, whatever, you know? Anyway, it turned out that they were owned by this bigger company called EW Scripts. And so they had a digital project here in Southwest Florida where they wanted to test out what news could look like. This is important. What news could look like if it was only positive storytelling? Or how could we tell stories in a way that would continue to engage our audience, but maybe they were longer format storytelling, right?
Right.
So whatever. Got the job. I end up working for them. And what we learned in that test is everyone says the news is negative, but everyone wants to see the negative stuff. Does that make sense? Because one of the top, at that time, one of the top topics that people wanted to know about was crime in their neighborhood. You know, the reality of it is like if there is a sexual predator in your community and you have children, you want to know where that person lives, you know, and not everybody has access to or knows how to look that information up online. You know, if they're, unfortunately, what we're dealing with right now are some people in the community who are accused of harassing, for lack of better words, young girls at the bus stop. If I have a young girl in my life, I want to know about that. So the reality of it is people want to know about the negative stuff, unfortunately, negative in quotes, because it does impact your life. Inflation impacts your life.
This is true.
Right? So that project, from there, I was tapped to weekend anchor at the station. And I was like, I don't want to do that. This is enough. You know what I mean? This is enough. We've learned a lot of things here. This is enough for me. I'd rather just keep doing that. And my boss at the time, who I love so much, he was one of the first people in my life who did not allow me to say no. He put my name in the hat for me, and he put me on the schedule, and he was like, you're going to do this. You need to do this. And I started to do it. It was supposed to be a temporary thing. I ended up getting hired for that job, and eventually I got promoted, I think a year and a half later, to the day side shift, which I work now. But it's important to note, like I said at the beginning, like I didn't want to do this. But then I want people to understand how some of these major topics, some of these major bills in the legislature right now, how they impact you. Because what happens, Cornell, is people hear about these things later and say, well, why didn't anybody tell me? Or I didn't know. And I understand you can't get to the public meeting down the street. You know, you can't make it there. So my job is to help you understand before it even gets there how this is going to impact you. And I don't want people to vote anymore where it's like, I close my eyes and I pray on this one and I'm going to fill in the dot. Or I heard from such and such that this person got blue eyes and I like this person. So I'm gonna, you know what I mean? Like, no, I want people to make informed decisions. And I want you to understand, sometimes the language on the ballot is like, what does this mean? I want you to understand how that decision is going to impact you. So because of that, I've learned to embrace news as an informational, educational platform and also a platform for justice as well.
It's really, I think we're moving into that space now, right? Where individuals are understanding knowledge is really important.
Come on. Come on.
And we got to get into it.
Come on.
So this is and what you do is so important. And I think now, with even young ladies and you beautiful listeners out there that are listening, to kind of get this coming from someone that is living this on a daily basis, like the importance of what information looks like.
Yes.
Because I feel like now, because we see so much stuff happening and we're like, well, we voted, but what we voted for we didn't get, so it doesn't make any sense to vote. But them understanding is still important.
Come on. And knowledge is power.
It is.
Like you said. You know? So, you know, hypothetically, if the city of Fort Myers is voting to raise, and this is very hypothetical, I want to be clear about that, but if they are potentially voting to increase parking in downtown Fort Myers, and you work in downtown Fort Myers every day, and that parking is going to go from $2 to $10, why not know about that in advance and maybe give yourself the opportunity to participate in the system and say, this doesn't work for me. But what happens is people respond on the back end, like, oh, and they post on Facebook, the city of Fort Myers is the worst because, and maybe you have every right to feel like that, but you also have the opportunity to participate in our system, you know? And I know people have all these thoughts about the system and their vote doesn't count and everything like that. But listen, I'd rather you participate than not.
Yeah. One of the things I've heard that reporters hate when you go on a set, when you go at a location to do something, and something out of the blues happen. That's not in the script, nothing. Have you ever had any of those moments?
I feel like that is the story of my life. To be very honest with you. And it's everything from, you spend all day getting ready to report on this story. And then 5 minutes before the newscast, it changes. And excuse me, I think that was my mom.
Okay.
Oh, no, that was you, Cornell. Oh, good. I just want your listeners to know. Because the girl on TV got hers on silent. Just had to be clear.
I do. Listen, guys. Listen, my listeners, I am so sorry. I don't know who is, oh my goodness.
Speaking of unexpected things, see,
unexpected
there it goes.
Things.
How do you deal with those things?
We did that.
No.
Oh my goodness.
So yeah, sometimes you could spend all day, preparing for a story. 5 minutes before you air, it changes, and then it could be anything like, the other day I was down in Fort Myers somewhere at some type of walk, and some guy thought it would be funny to like walk right in front of the camera. No. Yeah, people do stuff like that. For the most part, most people don't, but then ever so often you got that person who thinks it's funny. And in a time where we are seeing more and more reporters end up in really dangerous situations. We had a really unfortunate situation in Orlando where there was a reporter and a photographer working a crime scene, and someone walked up to the car and shot them.
No.
And the reporter died. So it's like, so these type of things, they rock our community as people who do this every day, because you get out there, you just want to tell the story, and something like that makes you, we have to have all these conversations again about safety and everything like that. So you never know what could happen. But the reality of it is, Cornell, is like, that's any Anything now.
Yeah.
You could be at the grocery store, the mall, whatever.
Yeah.
You know? But yeah, you get some crazy people. You get people, you know, one time I was in the middle of a live shot and someone yelled something very obscene. They were driving right past me in a car and they slowed down and yelled something very obscene, and you kind of have to keep going. It's like life.
Yeah.
You got to keep it pushing.
Because, you know, in the Caribbean, we say word is win, right?
Come on. Keep it pushing.
Just keep
Absolutely.
it pushing.
Absolutely.
I love that. So now, with, like, you know, your busy life now, what is the relationship like with mom?
That's why I thought she was calling me, because she let me back up, because if I just make her sound like she calls me all the time, she will not appreciate that. My relationship with my mom is better when we are apart, because we're so much alike. Does that make sense?
Yes,
so I talk to my mom practically every day, but my mom and I have had to kind of find a middle ground where she understands, like, I cannot talk all day, and anyone who's close to me also understands that I can't process everything all the time, because I'm constantly receiving information, Cornell, and sometimes that information is very hard. Deaths and, you know, near deaths and everything like that. So, like, you have to protect your energy, like they say. But at the same time, it's only strengthened our relationship. If there's one person that's gonna watch my newscast, no matter what time I'm on, it doesn't matter if I'm filling in the morning, at night, she is watching. You know, so my mom is my greatest supporter. If I, you know, she's the one to say, what color lipstick is that? You know, or she's gonna say, you shouldn't have worn those shoes. You know, she's always got something to say, some kind of feedback. And sometimes I pick up the phone like this when I see her texting, and I turn it right back down because she's asking me about what eyeliner that is and why is it so thick today. You know, but it's only made it that much better. You know, but we've learned, like, you know, in certain situations we are just we're better apart. And when I say that, it just means we live in different homes in Southwest Florida. You know what? I'm grown. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you're grown.
But it's hard because you're also getting older, Cornell.
Right.
You know? So
and you know, so it's crazy you're saying all that about mom, because, you know, individuals hear about the Caribbean and, you know, of course they want to know, okay, so does she know how to cook, or does mom cook, or what does that look like?
So there are a couple of people that are going to hear this and they're going to laugh as soon as you said that. So the irony of it is, this is where all my Caribbean people are going to be like, she is not really West Indian. I do not cook. I do. Look at Cornell laughing. And even my friend that you guys can't see, in the engineer in the back, she's laughing too. And Cornell's like wheezing laughing. So I just want to acknowledge that you're embarrassing me on your show, Cornell, but it's fine. I own it. You know, the other day I made cookies for this guy.
Did you?
Yeah, they weren't even from scratch.
Was it good?
They were burned. I know I'm letting my whole culture down right now, but I feel like this is me being transparent. Now let me tell you something.
Yeah.
I can clean like nobody's business.
Oh, there you go.
Okay, let me tell you something. And I will clean any and everything, baby. You know that, Jean, my mother did not wake me up every weekend to clean for no reason.
There you go.
Okay?
So
however, you're not getting any rice and peas. I just need to be very honest.
It is.
Cornell has tears in his eyes.
I'm sorry.
Thank you, Cornell, for bringing me down.
I know. No. Never that. Listen, every so often, guys, well, you know, you already a A-list celebrity, so it's okay.
Yeah, don't even try to make up for it. It's fine. I can't cook. It's just what it is. I can make a couple things, you know. I can make a couple things. I'm very proud of my chicken soup. I feel like one thing you have to know is how to make like real Caribbean chicken soup, like sweet potato, everything like that mixed in. I'm very proud of that. And actually, I am pretty good at making like a brown stew chicken or a brown stew fish. Like I do know what I'm doing. But the other thing, Cornell, is I hate the amount of time that it takes.
This is true.
And you know, some people just, you know, especially Caribbean people, they cook with their heart, and I don't have that. You know?
Yeah. So now with where you are with your, you know, your career, you feel like you're set there for a little bit, or? I
feel like I am always open to whatever could come next that makes sense for me.
That's beautiful.
You know, sometimes, a lot of the times, people think they know what's best for you, the next step you should take.
Right.
But I think for me, I I have been influenced by that so many times that it's caused me to go all over the place with my life.
Right.
And I am in a place where I feel like I'm driving the ship.
I like that.
Right.
And with you saying that, and I think listeners need to hear this from you. How important is constructive guidance? We're not even going to say criticism.
It's not just how important it is, it's also how important it is to be open to it.
Did you guys hear that? You maybe you should tell him that again.
Rewind this. When it comes to constructive guidance, like you said, it's not just about it being out there, it is about being open to receiving it.
Yes.
You know, this industry is hard on camera, right? Because you are constantly being criticized by people, whether you hear it or not.
Right.
Someone's looking at anything from your delivery to your eyelashes and everything in between.
Right.
You know, I went to an event in Cape Coral. I was working the booth one day, and this West Indian woman came up to me. I've never met her before, ever.
Right.
And she looks at me from the behind.
Yeah.
She goes, "Your bumsy getting big."
Oh.
I never met. But because we have this Caribbean connection and I put it out there so much, she felt like she could say that to me, you know? Yeah. People feel like, you know, whether it's negative or not, whether they're trying to be negative or not, which she really was coming from a place of love. Right. You're kind of taking in all of this. And so I want to start there by saying, there's a lot coming at you, and you have to look at yourself almost every day and see the imperfections. Like, wow, you have a wrinkle, you have a whatever, you messed up that word, right? Yeah. So there's one, you're already dealing with your internal critic. Right. On top of that, you have to deal with people giving their perspectives. Right. You have to learn how to filter what is beneficial for you, what is going to help you grow, and what is hateration, and what is just something that just needs to be dismissed. Wow. Okay? Yeah. So there have my mentor in this business, the number one person who has really guided me in my career, has always reminded me that it is about connecting with your audience. Yes. So if you mess up a word, if you have a hair out of place, did you get the information to that person, and are you connecting with that person? Yes. That critique is very different from your hips are big. Right. You know what I mean? Yeah. I'm open to that critique. And you have to set boundaries for that type of guidance. I love that you use the word guidance, but at the same time, I understand when people tell me you were smiling a little too much during the story, that's guidance that I need to hear. Right. Because even if I say something like, you might notice that you know the cost of eggs has gone up, and I might smile about it. For somebody at home, they're really, really struggling with the fact that the price of eggs has gone up, and now they're trying to decide where that extra couple dollars is going to go and going to come from. So, you know, I think it's important. I wouldn't be the person who I am without being open to that guidance, but I'm very cautious of who I'm taking feedback from.
That's good. Ooh, listen.
I'm snapping for myself.
Gems, people.
Oh my girl,
gems.
the engineer in the back. We snapping, baby.
It is beautiful. I'm telling you guys, a whole lot of gems right there. That was just beautiful.
Yeah, not everybody is in your lane. Not everybody's cheering for you. Cornell, you know this. Even the person in your face, smiling and bigging you up, could just have their eye on, how do I get there, and not just get there, but take over from where you are. I feel like Cornell.
Oh my goodness.
And the more successful you become, the more you have to be like, you can't come into this part. Right. This part is protected. Right. And I call everybody my friends. When I do a mic check on them every day for the newscast, I always say, mic check testing 1 2, good afternoon or good morning to all of my friends, because I love on people and I want people to know. But like who I actually consider my close friends, my family of friends, those are people that I trust. Their guidance. I had a friend sit me down the other day and really read me. Really tell me, like, you didn't show up in this moment like you should have. That's somebody I want in my life, Cornell. It may make me cry. Right. I might catch a little attitude. Right. But you know what? From that conversation, my whole perspective of showing up has really shifted, because
Yeah.
sometimes I do get caught up in my own world,
Right,
and
right.
I am not as present as I should be, and I believe
and
in
you're
protecting
human.
your energy, and
Yeah.
you're human,
Yeah.
but you do also need to take care of people the way they take care of you.
This
Those
is
good
true.
people.
This is
But you
very
need
true.
people to show up for you, and that person giving me feedback is someone I want in my life. If you're
Yeah.
not elevating me, if you're not helping me to get to the next level,
Yeah.
we can connect. I love
Yeah.
on everybody, Cornell,
but
but your advice doesn't mean anything to me.
Right. And it's, it's really important that individuals understand that, hey, you are going to be my friend to a certain extent.
Come on.
But when I get to because
Come on.
it's like the rocket, like that rocket, right?
Come on.
Because certain things can't continue with
That's
that
right.
rocket to go into space. Like it has to. So, guys, I'm telling you, listen, whatever you miss at this point that we're speaking right now, rewind it back.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, like
Yeah.
that's beautiful right there. And so your circle right now, I mean, how many college friends would you say you still get to connect with right now?
I don't know that I have maybe 3 girlfriends. We were roommates.
Okay.
That we're still sporadically connected with.
Yeah.
But I'm probably most proud of the friendships that I have from when I actually, ironically, was in elementary and middle school.
That's beautiful.
Those are some of my closest girlfriends. But I have to tell you, my closest girlfriends are people that I actually met at Fox 4.
That's amazing.
I was just in one of their weddings.
Family.
Family.
That's awesome.
Because it's almost like we met in this space where it was like, all right, we've done all the work. Now it's time to propel forward.
Yes,
And we're going to figure this out together.
I like that.
And so my closest girlfriend that I talk to all the time, we met here.
That's beautiful. That's a beautiful thing. We are moving into a space right now, and a lot of people say we have this paradigm shift going on, with inclusion, individuals not choosing the right words to say, and put them in a space. What is your take on that with individuals that's not fully understanding everyone now is being acknowledged?
So I have to tell your audience that I have to be careful about my response, because unfortunately a lot of that conversation is tied up in political garble. So I have to be very careful about that. However, listen, I believe I love on everybody. That love always changes when I feel like you're generating hate.
Right. Yeah. I like that.
And I think that's the most politically correct and journalist correct way for me to say it. Because like that. Equity, and inclusion are huge topics in our state right now. We're taking a look at what books are going to be in our classrooms.
Right.
And it's going to look very different.
Right.
I'm choosing my words very carefully.
I like
and
that.
So with that, again, people being aware and participating in this conversation is important. And let me tell you, let me say this.
Yes.
Your representatives, if you don't like what you're seeing, you should look at the way they are participating and voting towards these things. This comes right back to the ballot and what we were talking about.
This is true.
If you don't like it, Cornell, you do have the opportunity to possibly change it.
Yes.
How did your representative vote for abortion? How did your representative vote for DEI and what the classrooms will look like in the state of Florida? In any part of that conversation, did you hear them participate in a way that you supported? These are the things you have to look at and be like, okay, the conversation starts at the bottom, no matter what decision is made at the top, And so you have to take a look at what are you aligning yourself with when it comes to that conversation? But for me, I am still a person, Cornell.
Beautiful.
I might be a journalist, but I am still a person.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And so I have very strong views about some of those things, but I just can't share them because of ethics and journalism. However, I just think that 1, it's important to pay attention to who's representing you, and 2, I believe in understanding, being open to understanding other people and their perspectives. And it doesn't necessarily mean that you might agree or you have to show up in the way they think you should show up. But I do believe in hearing people out.
Beautiful.
I think that's a fair way of saying
No,
that.
it's a fair way. I love that. I love that. So I reevaluate myself every 3 months to help me find balance in my world.
How do you do that? Are you doing that on paper? Or are you doing it
both on paper? I meditate because of let's say for this current 3 months, I was doing something that I felt like I've put in, whether it's 4 to 6 hours, but it didn't really help me to progress into that better self. Because the older we get into our better self, right? Hopefully.
Right, preach.
Hopefully.
Right.
Now, I know for the listeners, they would want to know, what does that balance look like? Is it vacation? What does that look like?
Yeah. It's vacation.
There you go.
For me. It's travel.
Yes.
You know, the other day I posted, you know how people post like, it's a boy, it's a girl, we're engaged. Yeah. I posted, it's a Samsonite because I got a new suitcase. And it's my way of still reminding myself to live life.
Yes.
Because when I first started, I did not do that. And it impacted my relationships. Yeah. And that does include relationships with my family.
Right.
And it impacted me because I was just working all the time. Now, granted, did it pay off? Sure. Right. But did I lose out on not only growing in relationships, but also life experiences? Yes. And I missed out on really big life experiences with other people because I was just so focused on work. So now every couple months, you know, my coworkers will tell you, I try to be on a plane somewhere. You know, we went to New Orleans a couple months ago.
Yes, that was lovely.
It was awesome. Yes, we love New Orleans, and you know, we're getting ready to go to Alaska. So I just believe in and again, as you expose yourself to new opportunities, that is also and experiences, that is growth in itself. And my grandfather and my mom, see how it's full circle? They exposed me to that from a young age. You know, I went to Mexico at a young age, and we actually went to a very, very poor, Costa Rica, a very, very poor community there. I'm talking about they didn't even have a door on the front of the hut. They took a Beetle, an old Beetle, and they carved out the inside, the bottom of the car and made a door out of that. Wow. I'd never seen poverty like that before, you know? So for me, that's how I escape. But in addition to that, Cornell, every day cannot be a vacation. Right. So you mentioned meditation and work. For me, it's meditation and working out. I try to be consistent with those two things because the other thing about getting older is it's about how you feel and how you look, but also it's about longevity as well. And I start to think about all those things that could potentially impact me as I get older, the knees and the this and the, you know, I had a birthday the other day and I'm like, why are my knees hurting? You know what I mean? Like I'm rubbing Bengay on my knees, you know? So, you know, I realized like, dang, I got to stay on top of this stuff. And also I got to tell you, having a plan, Cornell, like whether it's in your phone, in your planner. I always walk with a planner now when people laugh at me. My friend the other day said, don't you have a phone? And I'm like, I have to see it. Because on this day, Cornell, if you're like, I'd like to have you on my podcast, I'm immediately going to be like, yeah, I want to do it. But then am I still making sure that I have balance? You know, is that a crazy day at work? And did I have a spa day? Because before I'd be like, you know what, I'll move the massage or the nail appointment. Now I'm like, no. You know, and even with this, I'm like, Mother's Day's coming up. I'm going to be gone. So I'm going to meet with my mom after the podcast. You gotta be able to see and plan. And I love what you said about reevaluating every 3 months. That's really important.
Oh yeah, I have to. So, you know, now, because you have different platforms, how can these lovely listeners, how can they find you?
You can find me on Shari Armstrong on Facebook, just the regular Shari Armstrong page, not the one that says Fox 4, and on Instagram, Shari S. Armstrong. You can always email me. I love getting viewer emails. Shari.armstrong@fox4now.com. And Shari Simone on Twitter, but I'm never on Twitter.
I'm the same.
Are you really?
I've never understood Twitter, so I just...
to me, it's just very annoying, but it's such a platform for news, so my boss is probably freaking out hearing me say that, but I never use it. But you know, and you can, I try to put my information there as much as possible because I like hearing from viewers. And again, I've had negative viewer emails before,
Yeah,
but the
it's okay.
majority of it is people who they give me the number one email I get actually is who braids your hair. They don't even care about like the news or anything. It's like who braids your hair. So shout out to Keisha Allen.
Ooh, Keisha.
Yes, Keisha.
Yeah.
Keisha's been braiding my hair for a minute now, and then before that, I always like to say that Marshy at Royalty Beauty right here off of Fowler. Also, she's the first person that braided my hair on air. So either one of those, they are the bomb.
Yeah.
But yeah. So
I like that. You in the spotlight and you put the individuals that, you know.
I wouldn't be here.
You're such a rock star.
Are you kidding me? Like,
it's
I wouldn't.
amazing.
That core, listen, I talk about my mom, my grandfather, and it is my family, my aunts and everything like that.
Right.
But I have people who I look back and I remember they were like, they knew me in the cut.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And now we're living together and we're growing together. And I'm not going to forget that.
There you go.
Keisha braided my hair in middle school. And now look at us. Yeah.
That's amazing. Keisha, big ups yourself.
Come on, Keisha.
Yo, so you guys just actually witnessed, because you did witness, and you listened to a story that just got created by our lovely presenter here that is on Fox 4.
Yes.
And listen, guys, if you can't find her on Instagram, you follow me, just look on the people that I follow. You'll see her in there.
Yes. And thank you for this platform, Cornell.
Yes.
I have to tell you, I mean, I try to plug your name now as much as possible because I respect what you're doing so much. And thank you for this particular platform where it does give us an opportunity, kind of like behind the scenes.
Yes.
And I really appreciate that.
Yes.
Some of your episodes, you know, you get deep.
I do.
I wasn't expecting you to get deep with me. You know, nobody asked about my dad, and I kind of like it that way.
Yeah.
But I appreciate that because
definitely.
if we're going to connect, let's connect.
That's how we connect.
And I appreciate that. So thank you for this.
You're going places, man. It's a beautiful thing.
I appreciate you saying that. I accept that. I claim that.
There you go. And I'm proud of you.
Thank you.
You're one sister that I tell you, the minute I met this woman, I was like, yo.
Wow.
This right here.
Wow.
This is beautiful. Like when you're in a space where you're like, yo, black beauty, black presence, black power, all that is there, and it's just amazing. You just want to be a part of it. However you can contribute, be of service.
Absolutely.
Love you, my sister.
Thank you for saying that. I love you too, Cornell.
Yes.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for being the show. Thank you, guys. Until our next episode of Stories to Create podcast right here at EOS Club. We'll talk soon.